Does fear of injury cause more injury? A 5-minute journal review. This paper was published in the American College of Sports Medicine and is titled Modulation of Prelanding Lower Limb Muscle Responses in Athletes with Multiple Ankle Sprains. I'll put the citation in the link so you can check it out if you like. But let's get right into it. We only have 5 minutes. We'll throw some science at you. This is what they did. Objective of the study: investigate pre-landing muscle activity and their associated ground reaction forces. What does that mean? So they put sensors, EMG sensors, on different muscle groups for a couple different athletes, and what those measure is muscle electrical activity. Are the muscles contracting or not? That's really all you need to know. And what they did was they wanted to measure that. When do they fire off certain muscles before and after landing, and how does that affect your impact force? But what they did is they took 2 groups of basketball players. One group was healthy, one group had bilateral ankle sprains. What that means is both ankles were injured at some point in time where they had to seek medical intervention. So healthy group, injured group, they're not injured at the time. They were injured in the past, very important to note that. First thing, this is what they did. They took both groups and they went through the same procedures. They put them in a harness and they pulled them 30 centimeters off the ground, and that harness was attached to the ceiling by a giant magnet. And the researchers did one of 2 things as far as how they let them land. They either just clicked the button and they just fell unexpectedly and the participants did not know that they were being dropped, or they let the participants pick when they were going to be dropped. Every single participant did both. And what they did was they measured everything. So what they found was in the healthy group and in the injured group, when they were unexpectedly dropped, they landed exactly the same. Impact forces were much lower. Healthy group, injured group, they didn't know what was going on. They just dropped, they landed, totally fine. But when they got to choose when they were landing, they found some pretty interesting things. And I'll let you be the judge of what's really happening. They found that their tibialis anterior activated earlier in the injured group when they got to pick when they were landing. That's this muscle right here. They also found that their TFL, that's this muscle right here, hip abduction, that's what that muscle does, activated later. And what they found was the impact forces, when they got to choose when they were going to land in the injured group, were significantly higher. So I say this is a fear response. They're afraid of re-injuring their ankle, so whether it's subconsciously or not, they choose to land differently. And you can see that this is proven that they do land differently, and they have a much stiffer landing. So when the TFL acts later and the tibialis anterior acts earlier, it's a stiffer landing, then the hip fires off, and then they can control that landing. So much higher forces. When you land with higher forces, that's much higher risk of re-injuring yourself. So what's going on here? We don't really know, but this is what my opinion is. They've injured themselves in the past. They know that going through injuries and rehabbing injuries stinks, and they don't want to do that again. So they create a fear response, a motor behavior pattern that says, okay, we need to protect ourselves. And this act of protecting themselves when they don't really need to, because again, they're healthy. They're not injured at the time. They're healthy. This fear response of we need to protect ourselves actually makes the problem much worse. So there's going to be disputes on interpreting the data, but the data is clear. When the injured athletes got to pick when they landed at significantly higher forces than the healthy group. When they didn't get to pick when they landed exactly the same. So what do you think? Do you know any athletes? If you're a coach, do you know any athletes? You're an athlete yourself, that you create problems that aren't really there? Are you creating injuries from something that's not really there? It's an interesting study. Again, if you have the time, you should take a look. This is a 5-minute journal review. We did some investigation, and we found that pre-landing muscle activity does in fact change the ground reaction forces in an unexpected drop.